Did we go live?
Yeah, we're live. But now they can hear us. Okay. Hello, everybody.
Welcome back. Did we go live?
Oh, you see? Now we know that it's going.
All right.
Okay.
Welcome back, everybody.
Yes, welcome back.
Thank you for joining us. Hopefully you find our videos entertaining and
Informative.
that's right. Please smash that like button.
But you have to tell them what they are welcome back to. Pray Hard Player YouTube channel and podcast.
Okay.
Specifically, Parshas the Barber, or like we like to say, PB&J.
Right.
Parshas Barber and Jews.
Now say that twice as fast.
PB&J, Parshas Barber and Jews.
Okay. I imagined it was going to be good.
He's got to say it a few times. Okay. What's this week's Parsha?
We're going to jump right into it.
Yes, but we're going to tell them first to smash the like button.
That's right.
To subscribe.
Recommend to other people.
Yes.
Like
it so that the algorithm feels that we're liked, and then it's going to push it out to more people. Because, guys, we need Torah on the internet. There's enough garbage on the internet.
As you guys can see, he wants to be like. Desperately wants to be like.
Gee, thanks, Ilya. Okay. Yeah. What's this week's Parsha? Vayechi. Now, last week we had a great show. Problem is that it was really noisy because we decided to do it while a haircut was being given, and we learned it's probably better if we want to film a Parsha show while there's a haircut being filmed, that it should be a scissor cut and not a machine cut.
Yeah.
But let's go. So we're going to also talk about last week's Parshas Vayigash. But first, let's just summarize the two Parshas. So last week's Parsha, Yehuda and Yosef are.
We're going head to head.
Yeah, they're Yehuda's ready to fight with Yosef. It says he came close to him and he tried to fight for Binyamin, and Yosef sees that Yosef finally reveals that he is their brother.
You know something? My whole life, we've been going through these cycles. Every single year, we go through the same exact Parsha. And what's surprising is, I didn't think about this question ever before. The question is, Dinah, after everything that's happened to her, her two brothers came, destroyed Shem, and everybody that lived in there, this, and that.
Mm-hmm.
After all that, Yaakov just leaves her in Egypt? Okay, he gives her a little amulet.
No, he didn't leave Dinah.
So what happens? How did she end up in Potiphar's how did she
he
get
left
adopted?
Dinah's daughter.
Right, but how did that happen? Why would he leave his granddaughter in Egypt, knowing that Egypt is a filthy place spiritually at that point, at that time? Why in the world would he leave Dinah's daughter there, his granddaughter? How does that make sense? I never thought about that. But realistically, why did nobody question this? You understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
Okay, this happened. It was a huge misfortune. Okay, it happened. But you're leaving the place. Why would you leave anybody behind? Especially your own kin. Why would you leave anybody behind?
Well, if you understand the story, it was that or death.
What? Leaving the
why did Yaakov bring Asnas to the gates of Egypt?
Why?
Because the Shvatim wanted to kill her.
Kill her?
Because it was a product of an illegitimate marriage, and so they thought maybe she shouldn't be left alive.
Why kill her? How is it her fault? It wasn't Dinah's fault, or it wasn't her child's fault. Why would they put them to death? How does that make sense?
I don't know how it makes sense, but they were thinking this is the product of imagine this child is reminding them.
This child is not a mamzer.
Okay, the child's not a mamzer because
she was not married at the time when it happened.
Correct, but it's more than that because the idea of a mamzer didn't really exist.
Okay.
Meaning there was illegitimate and immoral unions. That idea existed, right. But the product of that union should be illegitimate didn't exist yet. At least according to one opinion.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So we come back to the same logic. We come back to the same question. Why would anybody especially our patriarch like Yaakov, why would he leave his granddaughter behind?
I can't answer for why her life was in danger, but Yaakov was saving her life.
So there's definitely some information missing.
Most of the information is missing. If you think about the stories that we know about the Torah,
right, they're very limited.
They're very, very, very chosen stories. We're going to wait for the most prevalent noise in New York City to pass. But basically Yaakov was saving her life. Now there is a medrash that says that actually Malach, one of the Malachim, I think it was Malach Michal, took her and brought her straight to Potiphar's house. But we're gonna talk about that. But let's just finish what happened in the parsha last week. So Yosef reveals himself, and then they go back. Serach, Asher's daughter, reveals. She played on her harp and reveals to Yaakov they're alive.
That Yosef is alive.
Yosef is alive. Yaakov and Yosef finally meet. Yaakov says Shema, as we know, and and then the Jewish people, they move down there
to Goshen.
To Goshen, and they live there. They're doing well, right? They do well. Now this parsha, Parshas Vayechi. Let's just look at the summary. The name of the Parsha Vayechi means "and he lived," and it is found in Genesis 47:28. So racist, right? It's right. So and Yaakov lived. So what does it say? Yaakov lived the final 17 years of his life in Egypt, in Mitzrayim.
How old was Yosef when he was sold into slavery?
17.
Correct.
Yeah, there is a correlation. Good observation. Was that Zerah Shimshon?
Yeah, but I gave you the book, man.
Bro, Zerah Shimshon.
There's a lot of different versions of it. There's like 5 different versions of it.
There's only one actual text of Zerah Shimshon.
Right.
And then there are a lot of commentaries, and there are people who took snippets. There's the one that you use, the English one, that brings a lot of stories and cool stuff. I think it's really cool.
The English translation, no matter what book you're translating, it doesn't do it justice. If you were reading it from the original text, it gives you so much more information.
Yeah. So the plus of reading it from the English is because it brings a lot of context and modern day. For example, you brought down that story about the guy who said "mama" in Greek in the Nazi camp and gets married. That wasn't brought down in Zerah Shimshon.
No, but it was one of the stories that they used
to clarify, to illustrate something that Zerah Shimshon was bringing.
Right.
So that's the plus of having a book like that. Though
I enjoy the stories, I feel like it's too much. Got to get straight to the gist of things. You know what I mean?
I don't know, man. It did well on Reels.
I guess.
Oh man. Okay, so he before he passes away, he asks Yosef to promise him to bury him in Eretz Yisrael.
Correct.
And he gives a bracha to Yosef's 2 sons, Ephraim and Menashe.
He switches his hands.
Right.
His sons,
he goes his hands right, and he calls
them
them his own sons, and they become 2 of the Shvatim. Now Yaakov wants to tell them when Mashiach is going to come, but Hashem makes him forget. Yaakov blesses.
Here we learn that your kids and your grandkids are considered your kids for 3 generations.
We're going to talk about that, perhaps even more than 3 generations. But so Yaakov gives blessings to all of his sons, right? Each tribe has its own role. Yehuda will be leaders, kings. Levi will have the Kohanim. and Yisachar will be Talmidei Chachamim, and all these different things. Now,
it was Issachar that was swift, right? As a Giselle.
No, that was Naphtali.
Oh, that was Naphtali.
Yisachar was he was the one who would learn Torah, and Zvulun was the business partner.
Right, of course, yeah. Yehuda's sons.
What?
Then Yehuda's sons were continuing the same thing.
No, Yehuda is leadership.
Just leadership.
That was Yehuda. Yehuda was being the kings, right? Yisachar and Zvulun, Yisachar was the one who learned, and Zvulun was the one who was right. Yeah. Now, there was a big funeral going all the way from Mitzrayim to Eretz Yisrael. Yaakov's family, Paro's ministers, very important people from Mitzrayim, and the Egyptian cavalry, and a bunch of other great leaders also joined in on the way. And he was buried in Marsha Machpelah. Esav's head gets bumped off,
knocked off
over there. And Yosef also passes away in Mitzrayim at the age of 110. He also said that they should take him out of Mitzrayim, which they do a lot later when the Jews, hundreds of years later.
That there was an opinion that I read that each and every one of these tribes took the bones of their leaders from Mitzrayim and brought them back in land of Canaan. Well, at that time it was land of Canaan.
Yeah. There is. I don't remember. I think
so. Not only did Moshe Rabbeinu take Yosef's bones, but each tribe took the leaders of their the bones of their leaders from Mitzrayim as well. So all of Yosef's brothers' bones were taken as well.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I remember learning that. But Moshe took personal responsibility for
Yosef's.
It was Yosef's, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, just the last thing from the Parsha. Yosef tells the people of the Jewish people, or the Bnei Yisrael, that don't worry, it's going to get tough, but Hashem will remember you and bring you to the land that was promised to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. As we well know, the land of Israel belongs
to the children of Israel.
To the children of Israel, to the Jewish people, and only to the Jewish people.
You didn't have to mention Jewish people. You just had to say the children of Israel. I think it's obvious that the children of Israel are the 12 tribes of Israel.
The Jewish people.
Thank you. So I don't think you even had to mention that.
Yo, you're pretty intense today.
What do you mean?
I was messing around. Okay, let's get into the Parsha. So, like this. Last week we talked about how Yehuda was fighting with Yosef, right? So it mentions some crazy stuff. There was a showdown of strength between Yehuda and Yosef, and it says that when Yehuda would get angry, the hair by his heart
and his chest would stand
right. The hair by his chest, right by his heart, would stand on end and would pierce his clothing. And I remember hearing Rabbi Goldstein's tapes, amazing tapes called The Living Sidra. Maybe I can post the link at the end of the thing. He said that it would pierce his 5 layers of clothing. His eyes dripped blood.
They were ready to die there. They were ready to sacrifice themselves to fight for their brother.
Right. Well, it was actually mainly Yehuda, because Yehuda had taken responsibility and staked his life in this world and the world to come.
But his brothers were behind him 100%.
Oh yeah, for sure. No,
that's when he looks back and he tells his brother, "Go check out how many people who we got to take care of, all the cities." Right. He comes back and he tells them 12 cities. He says, "I'll take 3. You take the rest." That's how angry he was. He's like, "I'll take 3. You take the rest. Nobody will leave here alive today." And then when he's about to unsheath his sword, he couldn't take it out. Like he says to himself, "Wait a minute. How is this guy greater than me? How is it possible?" That's when Yosef tells Manasseh, he says, go calm your uncle down a little. Go rub his chest a little. Calm him down. And he calms him down. That's why and then he says, "Whoa, what's going on here? They know things we know. Like something is up here."
Yeah. So he actually told himself. He said it has to be that he's from the family, from our family, because there's no one as strong as our family. Yeah. So it wasn't just that he was more righteous. He said this has to be from the family, like Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. It has to be someone from our family, and he was right.
Yeah. He had his suspicions.
Yeah. I'm going to turn off
notification. Is anybody commenting?
No, I don't know where my bro is at. Okay, so anyway, so he was talking about that. It says that he would get angry. He had in his belt pieces of copper that he would chew on, and it would like really bring out, the rage in him. And Yosef, I think it says he signified to his son, and it wasn't clear if it was Yosef or his son who did it, but basically they stomped on the ground and like the whole palace shook.
That was Yosef. Yosef kicked the pillar.
Right, and they're like throwing things up and smashing them down.
And since he couldn't unsheath his sword, he took a piece of rock and he grinded it down like sand. And then Yosef saw that and he said, "Okay." And then he kicks a pillar and the whole pillar just shakes.
So it was a crazy
display of power.
Of strength. Yeah, and we're going back and forth. But once and from what I remember learning, that actually Yehuda. So when he said, so Yosef tells them, I'm Yosef, right? He reveals himself, and they are part of the reason is because he sees that if he doesn't tell them now, then Mitzrayim is going to be destroyed. Right. And it says that in the beginning they were scared. They thought maybe, I'm guessing, it doesn't say clearly, but my guess is they thought maybe he wants to take revenge, so they wanted to kill him. And an angel came and spread them out to the four corners of that room. And Yehuda let out a yell, which made
the Pharaoh fall off his
Paro and Yosef fall off the throne. The teeth fell out. The all the pregnant women lost their children. They had miscarriages. The walls of Mitzrayim fell. 2 nearby cities,
I read an opinion that said that Yehuda had such a strong argument, not only in being aggressive, but the way he was saying that my father will surely die if the young boy doesn't come back, and he was saying all these things that all these Egyptians that were there, all these noblemen that were there, they were crying. They were all in tears.
Wow!
And they actually were talking Yosef into it. That's it. Let him go. It's okay. Let him be. We believe them. He said, no, what if they're spies? They're like, we believe you. We understand you're super, you pay attention to each detail. Let them be. They were all begging for them. Just let the boy go. We don't want this to happen. Everybody was crying. The whole palace was crying.
Oh, really?
That's when Yosef couldn't take it. And he said, everybody, you have to leave. Come out. Everybody come out. I have to speak to them. Right. Apparently, Yosef had to stop more than 10 times to wash his face.
You told me that. I only knew he had to leave once, but yeah.
Apparently, why was Yosef doing this? The main question, most people think that he was torturing them for what they did, or apparently, on a higher level, he was actually cleansing them. If he would have waited a couple of more minutes, if he would have lasted a couple of more minutes, we would not have, throughout history, lost 10 greatest tzaddikim. This is the reason why we lost 10 greatest tzaddikim, because the sin of selling their brother was not completely rectified.
Yeah, we read about that on Yom Kippur, where the 10 in the times of the Romans, they had to kind of make up for the fact, because he said, "What's the punishment for someone who kidnaps?" And they answered death. So they said, "You have to take their place because you are the greatest people in your times. So if they were here, I would judge them, but you're the greatest people." Yeah, it's a very sad thing that we read on Yom Kippur.
But it also goes to show you that in this world, any types of big judgments like this, they never leave this world until it's squared off. Nothing in this world stays indebted.
I mean, there is an idea of teshuvah that erases. You could even turn sins into merits.
Correct, but to how do we rectify that sin of them selling their brother? Because it wasn't rectified at that time, which is why it had to be rectified throughout history of Jewish people.
Right. Yeah, no, I don't know if. Yeah, I'm just saying that there is this idea. I mean, we've seen stories of people who would sin their entire lives, and one moment, they were able to change it all because they really, from the depth, at their with their entire being, returned to Hashem.
Teshuvah is very powerful. It's
a
very powerful thing that Hashem has given to this world as a gift. Yeah. Teshuvah is a huge, huge gift. Think about it. No matter where you are in your life, no matter how low you've sunk, the only thing that could bring you back is teshuvah, and even put you higher than everyone else.
Yeah. That's what it says, right? One of the things that means is, someone who is perfect, they never dealt with unholiness, so they can't elevate it. And normally you can't eat non-kosher food and use this strength for godliness. I mean, physically you could, but you're not actually elevating it, because the non-kosher food is not elevatable through you eating it and getting energy to serve God. Right? But a person who let's say, for example, did eat non-kosher, but he really, really returns to God. He's taking the thing that he did, which was wrong, and he's turning it into something good. Someone who never sinned can't even possibly do that. That's one of the ideas of how that's possible. But the last thing is going back to the thing about Yehuda yelling. It says that actually the people who are some important people in Mitzrayim, they're like officers, their heads turned backwards.
Right. Never turned back.
I don't even know how you survive like that, but their heads turned backwards, and it was like that for the rest of their life.
They turned into Stephen Hawking for the rest of their life.
Oh gosh!
What do you have? Was cerebral palsy, I believe?
I don't know. Didn't he die a few years ago?
Yeah, I think he did die. But it was cerebral palsy, right? It was something like that. That happened to him not because of an accident. It was a natural thing to him, wasn't it?
Oh, you're saying he was born like that? It's possible.
Yeah, I think so. I think he had cerebral palsy, but he was a genius.
Right, yeah. Okay. Now, the Chida brings in his Sefer Dvash Lefi, in the name of Rabbeinu Ephraim, that Binyamin, it says that, right, one of the things that Yehuda says is that my father is he's afraid, he didn't want to let Binyamin come. Right, as you were just saying.
Right.
He said, my father said, no. And we said that we had to bring him. So...
Oh, you want to get into the werewolf conversation?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Right, because his father really feared for his life. Yeah. There's actually an opinion that says he actually turned into a werewolf. His father was the only one that was able to calm him down. But he was afraid that if he does go to Mitzrayim and he does turn into a werewolf, the Egyptian people will catch him and kill him, which is why he was afraid to let him go in the first place. Yes, so the Chida says in the name of Rabbeinu Ephraim that Binyamin, when it says Binyamin is Yitraf, which is in the blessings, that Binyamin is a wolf that will tear apart, it's not just figuratively, which the Chida says it doesn't even, like, how is that possible? But this is brought down. He would actually turn into a wolf, and if he wasn't stopped, he could hurt people. So now we see an encounter of werewolves in religious books. Is there any mention of any vampires, man? I want to. That's funny, man. Any mention at all? I don't know. But he says, so why was he scared? Because, and I think what I learned is a little bit different than yours, that there was a doctor
there was a doctor who knew how to treat Binyamin next to Yaakov, meaning where they lived, in Eretz Canaan. So he knew that if Binyamin transforms all of a sudden into a wolf, he'll be able to be taken care of. But if he's on the road, his life is in danger because people are going to, in self-defense, kill him.
But you
It's
missed
possible.
out one very important little detail.
What's that?
What made him turn into a werewolf? Full moon. Every time Rosh Chodesh, right?
I did not see that anywhere.
Full moon. It was Rosh Chodesh.
I didn't see that. I didn't
Okay.
see that.
So that's why he had to stay close to his father.
What's that I was saying? That's already a myth.
No.
What-
That's why he had to stay close to his father, because traveling to Mitzrayim was a long time. So he knew that the month will pass.
Okay, where did you see the full moon thing?
I don't recall, but it was one of the midrash.
I'm very doubtful if the full moon thing is real.
Yeah, the full moon thing is real.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, you'll have to show it to me.
I remember specifically was full moon. That's what made him transform.
No, because that's the legend. That's
because he
the.
couldn't control himself. That's why his father would calm him down by rubbing, just like Menashe did to his uncle, by rubbing his chest. I remember this specifically because when we were reading the midrashim when I was like 16 or 17. I remember this.
You need to show me this inside.
Okay.
I won't believe it until I see it.
Okay. And that's why it was only his father and and Yosef and Binyamin, because they're of the same mother. They were the only ones that were able to calm him down from the full moon.
Right. Okay. Well, either way.
So I'm guessing Menashe and Ephraim were also able to do that, because he goes and does that to his uncle when he gets.
No, so I remember it saying that he was holding him back, he told Yosef told his son to hold Yehuda back, but I didn't know anything about.
Yeah, it says that he rubs him, he rubs his chest, and then he comes down. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I want to see it. I'm not calling you a liar. I'm just,
No problem.
Yeah. So that was that. The Chassam Sofer actually says something interesting, that because Yehuda mentions that Yaakov said that Taraf Yosef, that Yosef was torn apart, but another translation for metaraf means crazy, meaning that he thought. And why did he think this? Because he reasoned if Yosef actually went to the next world, he would have appeared to him in a dream, and he never appeared to him in a dream. So because of that, he suspected he was alive, but he had lost his mind because he got bitten. That's why his cloak came back with blood on it, but he survived, and he was bitten, and he had, like rabies or whatever it is, gotten, lost his mind, that he's somewhere roaming around.
Oh, I also remembered one more detail. The very first time the brothers came to buy rations, they brought everything they owned with them. Meaning they brought so much silver with them, that was everything they owned. They actually thought that they were going to go and find Yosef and buy him from Mitzrayim.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me this. Yeah.
So that's why they came and they were asking, "Where is Yosef?" And they thought that he was sold to the brothels, to the filthiest places of Egypt.
Well, because he was very pretty.
Right.
Okay.
Anytime you buy a slave, especially at that time, if you want to make maximum amount of money off your slave, what do you sell them? Brothels. That's where they make maximum amount of money. If you're a slave, if you're not of noble blood.
No, I understand, but I'm saying
that they were gonna find him there.
Right, but I'm saying it would also make sense that because Yosef was very good looking, because some slaves doesn't make sense to send to the brothel, But Yosef, I guess it made sense with his looks. That's that, because it's the first time I heard that Yosef, that they were looking for him in brothels.
Oh yeah, they were asking, "Where's our brother? Is he here? Is he there? Is he in this city?" So there was that kind of dialogue there.
Well, I never knew that. Now,
how does he reveal himself to Benjamin? he says to him, "Come, between them there's a wall or the curtain." And he says to him, "Do you understand astrology? Do you know how to read it?" He says, "Yes." He says, "Okay, find your brother." He says, "I have a Jew here." Well, it wasn't a Jew back then.
Whatever, a Hebrew,
A Hebrew
Yaakov,
here.
yeah.
He says, "Well, what do you mean?" He says, "Check where your brother is," because they thought at that time that he was sold to brothels or somewhere very filthy places. And then he starts looking. He says, "It can't be right." It says, "My brother's right next to me."
I remember hearing something like that. Yeah. He let Binyamin know before everybody else.
And then he reveals himself. He says, "Yes, you're right. Your brother is next to you, and I am Yosef." And then they both hug each other, and they both start crying on each other's shoulders.
Yes,
why?
I remember
Because
that.
one of them is crying that the Bet HaMikdash will be destroyed in his land, and the
Right.
second one is crying because there will be two Bet HaMikdashes before the redemption.
No, one of them was because of the Mishkan.
Right. One was Mishkan, one was the Bet HaMikdash. Right, correct.
Yeah. Wow, I remember that. Wow. Right, that's what we said that Binyamin had named all
10 of his
kids
brothers
after
what happened to his brother.
Yeah. And now another miracle that happened, another thing that happened, it says that when Yosef revealed himself to his brothers, that for a second they died, that their neshama left their body.
Right, I heard that one.
And Hashem had to bring their neshamas back into their bodies.
There's only two other times that we hear of this, and one of the times that we hear of this is when Hashem actually speaks out the first two commandments himself. Correct?
Say that again.
The only time we hear somebody leaving their body and then being brought back into their body.
About the Torah.
Right. But I also read the comments, and it says that at the time when Hashem was speaking out those first two commandments, we had to be detached from our body in order for us to truly understand what those commandments are saying.
Yeah, and also that the reason we had to hear those two is because in those two commandments are included all of the mitzvot. So we can't say, we didn't hear the Torah, you heard the Torah from God.
Mm-hmm.
He says, no. You heard it. You heard Anochi.
Everybody
and
heard
it. So yeah.
But the true understanding of it, we could never grasp until our bodies are detached from our soul, or our soul is detached from our body.
Wow. So in other words, that was by design that the neshama outside of the body should hear it.
Right.
Wow. Very interesting. Okay, next thing. So Rashi says that how did he prove to them that he was their brother? By showing them his bris milah, showing him that he was circumcised.
Right, correct.
Right. So there's a question brought down. He could have been either from the family of Ishmael, because they also circumcised themselves at 13, but they still did it. And he was way over 13.
Mm-hmm.
Or he could just be one of the Mitzrayim, because we know that Yosef had required from the Mitzrayim to circumcise themselves in order to get the food,
get the rations,
get food in Mitzrayim, in order so that the Jews later on won't find themselves in a predicament where they're oppressed, or where they are discriminated against because they're different. So it could have been any Mitzri, right? So the answer that's brought down from the Sifsei Kohen is that he was actually born circumcised. And someone who's born circumcised, they don't look the same. A circumcision that's done by God is different than a circumcision that's done by man. And therefore they knew that this was Yosef because of how it looked, whatever that means.
Hold on, does that mean a person who's born circumcised doesn't have a Yetzer Hara?
I don't know if it means that at all. I mean, it definitely means that they're a very special and holy and elevated soul.
Right, but if you get to the root of it, what's the reasoning why we do the whole circumcision in the first place? to give the evil inclination its own its own food or its own take this, get away from me type of a thing. No.
Well, I think that from what I understand, the bris milah is actually when the neshama comes into the body fully.
But what does that have to do with anything? I'm saying, what was the root, reason, cause of brit milah?
What do you mean? What's the reason? Because
I thought that was part of kind of symbolically showing that to the evil inclination that we don't need that part of it. I thought that was the reasoning, no?
From what I understand,
besides being a union between God and all, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when it comes to the evil inclination. We are born with an evil inclination.
Right.
One of the symbols that we do on the 8th day, why we cut it off, is to show the evil inclination that you're not needed here. Why did you come into this world type of a thing? Like, take your little piece and get away from here. Just like we do Mayim Achronim. Why do we...
why are you saying that's like the Sitra Achras?
Right, like get away from here. Take yours. You have something to eat. Like you got something. Take yours and get away from here. You got your piece.
I never heard that.
I thought that was the whole point of the whole thing. I mean, the same reason why we do Mayim Achronim. Why do we not wash our hands? We just
we spoke about
why a little tip.
We spoke about that with the Frimal.
Right.
I never heard that was the reason though. I never knew that.
No. Okay.
But there's a lot that I haven't heard about. So it could be good. Okay, 1 second. We have a question. Bnei Yishmael continue bris at 13. The question is, do the Arabs still circumcise at 13? I think so. I think they do.
A lot of Arab countries circumcise their women once they're born.
And I don't want to talk about that. Blah.
But it's true.
No, I know. I heard about that, but yeah, it's kind of nasty. Okay, next.
Nasty or not, it happens.
Yeah, unfortunately. Something interesting here is brought down by the Cheskuni and the Paneach Raza. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but that he gave them clothing. It says that Yosef gave his brothers clothing as gifts. Why did he give them clothing? Mm-hmm. So the answer is because when they found out that Binyamin had stolen, quote unquote, the
golden
the goblet, they tore their clothing. Now that was Yosef who made that up. Yosef framed him. So because they lost their garments because of Yosef would pay them with garments.
Yeah, I think he gave 7 to each brother and 500 to Binyamin or something like
that. He gave more to Binyamin than he gave the rest. I don't remember.
A lot more.
Yeah.
Why? Why such favoritism?
Well, he was his full brother.
So? Why separation? Brothers are brothers. Why separation?
I don't know. Now you have homework. I want you to find
the reason why I say that in real life, if I had a half brother, and I would treat my, full brother different from my half brother, it would kind of make you feel, alienated. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Why do that?
Also, this is
a righteous man.
No, but also this is what started this whole mess to begin with.
I get it, but why? Why do that?
I'm saying favoritism is what started the whole mess to begin with.
That's what I'm saying, but why do that? Why do the same thing?
I don't know. It's a good question. Now, Meitzar Plois HaTorah, this is the author of the Sefer. I recommend if you can go out and buy it. It's actually incredible. So
he gets 5% back.
I don't get any kickbacks.
I know.
It says that it seems that because it says that Yosef sent his father wagons, right? And actually, we know from that's how he gave a hint to his father, because wagons in Hebrew is agalot, or agal, right from agala. And also, the last thing they learned together, Yaakov and Yosef, before he was sold, was the din of Egla Arufa. Right. So he was hinting to his father, hey, I didn't forget the Torah that you taught me.
But what was Egla Arufa about?
Egla Arufa is the law that if a person is found dead outside of the city, the closest city that it is to, the elders of the city have to come out and say it wasn't
But ultimately, what was that whole or the whole ritual for?
Tell me
What does
why.
it matter? What city does the carcass or that person belongs to?
Because they're responsible for a person like that's death.
Right, and that brought impurity to that nation or that city that who it belonged to. So therefore, to cleanse themselves of all the impurities, they had to know all the details of this whole halacha. So that's why. And so that's why he sends this to his father to show him that though I'm in a very filthy place, I kept myself clean. That was the message. That besides that, that's the last thing we learned, but I also kept myself so clean to a point where I didn't even let that happen in my city. Like I wouldn't even have murders happen. I wouldn't allow it because he was the viceroy now.
That's interesting. So it wasn't just that in telling him that's the last thing we learned. The last thing they learned actually was very much purity. Appropriate to the message he was trying to show his father.
And the message was, though I'm in a very filthy place of the world, I still kept myself very pure.
Wow.
And that is why Yaakov says it's time to go to Mitzrayim. Because now we can go. Because that was his assurance that even though you're going to a very filthy place, it will not influence you.
Wow. Nice. Very nice.
That's why when he comes and he sees his sons, he tells them, these are my sons. And they speak to him in a holy language. Why? To show their grandfather that they learned. They
right, from Manasseh. Yeah.
Right.
Wow. Now, but another thing that the author of the Sefer says is that perhaps you can say the reason he sent him gifts right away was because of what it says in the Midbar Rabbah, that one of the ways to honor your father is to give him gifts. So Yosef, before he even was able to see his father, he already right away did the mitzvah of kibbud av the moment he could, because he yearned for that mitzvah, which he didn't have for 22 years. So he yearned so much for that mitzvah, so he sent him gifts before he could even have contact with him. That was his first opportunity to do the mitzvah of kibbud av, which is beautiful.
Yosef also got penalized because 5 times his brothers said, "Your slave, our father."
Abdecha avi.
Right. So he got penalized for the 5 times he said those 2 words. So 10 years were knocked off his life.
Right.
He would have lived 10 years longer if he just would have said something. So in other words, by doing all these tikkunim to his brothers, he kind of set himself up for a younger death by trying to cleanse, rectify their sin.
Oh wow! I didn't think about it like that. It says that all together he lost 10 years of his life because it said, Abdecha 10 times. They call his father was called. He was called his father's master 10 times, and he didn't protest. Let's just read some of the.
If he would have protested, what would have happened? He would have to reveal himself. So
he was trying to
finish the rectification, which didn't, of course.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's show this question here. And he says, why would they have to tear kriya? Why would they have to tear their clothing? I don't know if they had to, but they were doing it out of mourning.
Right.
They were mourning, and that's why they tore it. I don't know if halachically they had to, quote unquote, but this is what they did.
They didn't really halachically have to do anything. Torah was not given yet.
Yeah,
but they still tried to
Torah,
live by the Torah.
Right. And the second question is, it's not direct hezek. He didn't directly damage their clothing, so why would he have to pay them back? Again, I don't think that it was a question of obligation. He said, I caused it, and he was taking responsibility for that.
Plus, he didn't want his brothers to travel all around in ripped clothes. How would it look for noble people? Like, he just revealed that they're his brothers, and he's the viceroy, and they're walking around with ripped clothes. It just wouldn't look right.
Right. So I wonder if they might have had other clothing with them. I don't know.
Irrelevant. The viceroy wants to dress his brothers. Obviously, it's going to be fancier.
That makes sense. Yeah,
it's going to be much fancier.
Linen clothing.
Probably that's what it was, because he didn't want them to be affected by the land and the people there.
That's interesting, actually. That's very interesting.
It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, in previous parshas we spoke about the school of linen, how it can help against magic, against Ein Hara. So this would be very applicable.
And also apparently lead, the metal lead, the heavy metal lead.
I remember lead being the thing that the shamir couldn't break through. I didn't know that it was helpful.
So lead apparently has some sort of properties towards it where it engulfs all the negative energy and keeps it inside. So any magic.
That's why lead is so heavy.
I guess.
No, I'm just kidding.
I believe there was a rabbi about 500 or 600 years ago that was doing all types of removing all types of negativity from people who were cursed or whatever, and he always walked around with lead in his pocket, and on the inside everything he wore was linen.
Dude, you gotta show me these. You gotta tell me where to read these stories.
Yeah, I remember this from a long time ago. I went to Camp Lamanachai, and I remember there we were learning, and I remember that particular fragment because as he was telling us the story, I was visualizing the whole thing. So I visualized the whole story. You know, I don't remember exact details, but I remember what I visualized.
Yeah, actually, there's a previous episode. I think we talked a little bit about your experience in Lamanachai. It was very beautiful to hear. I remember you said it was a very nice story. Now, I'm not going to tell you which one, so you have to watch all of them to find out which one it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Rabbi Kleiman is the man.
Yeah, you were telling me about him.
I don't think he's Chabad, though.
I have no clue.
I don't think he's Chabad.
What does that make a difference?
No, I'm just saying. But Camp Lamanachai was a Chabad camp, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it is run by Chabad.
Ushi and Dovi. Ushi was there were two brothers. Nice guys. Really nice guys.
Counselors?
They were running the program. I don't know if they were. One of them was a counselor, but Ushi wasn't a counselor.
I wonder if anyone who's watching this knows what you're talking about. This is like a summer camp for, is it mainly for Bukharian children?
Nah, it was mixed.
No? It was mixed.
It was very mixed.
There's a lot of Bukharian
Ushi, his name was Usher.
Yeah, Ushi
called
is short
Ushi.
for Usher.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
As a matter of fact, I kind of insisted my nephew's name is Usher.
Say it again?
My nephew's name is Usher.
Oh. It's one of the Shvatim's names.
Yeah.
One of the Shvatim's names. Okay.
So,
So,
Don, how many kids did Don have?
why are you asking me this? I have no clue.
Because I saw every single one of his brothers has many, many sons, many daughters, and this and that. Don, one child. I was like, this can't be right. I gotta look this up. And then I didn't get a chance to look it up.
So yeah, I wonder where we would look to see what to find that interesting. Now, the last thing we mentioned in last week's episode, there's some more stuff from Vayigash, but last thing we mentioned was that Paro had also sent wagons, but Yaakov never saw those wagons. Wow. The question is why? Mm-hmm. So the reason is because on those wagons there were engravings of Avodah Zarah on it.
Oh, Yehuda destroyed them before they even went out.
Yeah, and Yehuda saw that and he's like, this is not a thing. And he just burns them. And that was actually like his MO. Like Yehuda was very careful about destroying Avodah Zarah. That was his thing, apparently. It's very interesting.
Well, technically he's right. We're not supposed to benefit at all from anything that comes from Avodah Zarah or anything that is exposed to it.
No, 100%. But Yehuda was, I mean, it's also, you see, I forgot which king it was. One of the righteous kings. He went on he went around the country making sure that nobody inspecting people not to have Avodah Zarah.
It's Kiao.
Yeah, I think you're right.
They're saying they say that he was one of the greatest kings. At his time, a 6-year-old kid already knew all of Gemara.
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting. It brings that down. I remember it being brought down to show the beauty of achdus, of unity. That even though in those times, even the children were amazing at learning, but because there wasn't unity, there was catastrophe. There were, not happy things happened. But then when there was Avodah Zarah, just because the Jewish nation was together, they were okay. which shows how important it is to be together. Not that they weren't doing the right thing in the time of Chizkiyahu. I think that was right. That was a king, but it shows just how powerful, and that's the idea of love, right? That al kol peshaim techasa ava, that on all sins, love covers over. When you love yourself, you don't want to see bad about yourself. So when there's unity and love, that mirrors God's love towards us, and then it's almost like he ignores the fact that there's sins. That's the power of, so what we have to do is be together and also do the right thing. And we'll bring Mashiach.
Amen.
Yeah. I love this. I love this so much. This is really cool. So I just thought it was very novel. Yaakov says, Rav od Yosef b'nichai. He doesn't just say, my son is still alive. He says, Rav, like greatness, or, a lot, but it actually would be Yisrael Isserlin, who is the author of Trumas Hadeshin, which is a book of halacha, very well-known book of halacha. He says that actually Rav is referring to Esav. As we see that in the bracha, in the prophecy that Rivka is told, it says the older one will serve the younger one. Mm-hmm. And it's called Rav Yaveh Tzoyer. Esav in that case is Rav.
Right.
So why would Yaakov be talking to Esav? What is he trying to say? So it says that when people thought that Yosef had died, Esav became very happy. Why did Esav become very happy? Because it says, Yosef was like the antithesis of Esav. As long as Yosef was around, it was bad trouble for Esav. He was like,
Right, because Yosef's tribe represents a bull. And the only thing that could stand up to Esav was Yosef.
Mm.
That's what made Yaakov confident of leaving Lavan's house in the first place after Yosef was born.
Wow.
Because he couldn't have left Lavan's house until Yosef was born. And the only one that could stand up to a tiger or a lion is a bull with his horns. So Yosef was a representation of a bull, which made Yaakov confident. Even going to Mitzrayim.
Right. So here it says that it brings down from the pasuk of, it says, "V'haya beis Yaakov eish," that the house of Yaakov will be fire, ubeis Yosef lahava, and the house of Yosef will be a flame. So eish can be a small fire, but lahava means a big flame. Ubeis Esav lakash, and the house of Esav will be like straw. Now a fire will consume straw, a big flame will consume straw. So Esav said, the Eish, Yaakov, doesn't have the flame, it's just a small fire, because Yosef died, so now it's good. So when he found out that Yosef was alive, he said, hey, Rav, Esav, don't be so happy. I still have my flame. Yosef is still alive. Mm-hmm. And so you're still...
that was his confidence.
You're still in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So here was what we were talking about earlier, about... You know what? I think we're going to stop here for Parshas Vayigash, and we're going to go to Parshas Vayechi, because we haven't even started Parshas Vayechi. So now we're going to talk about this week's Parsha.
Okay. We're going to get to the juicy stuff.
Yeah, some juicy stuff, exactly. So
this is where Yaakov passes, and they take him to his last journey.
Yeah, but here's a big question. It says Vayechi Yaakov.
His life.
Right? Shva'asrei Shana. Be'eretz Goshen. I don't know the exact wording, but it says that Yaakov lived in Mitzrayim for 17 years. And 17 is the gematria of Tov, of good. Right? Tov, Tes is 9, Vav is 6, that's 15, and Beis is 2, so that's 17. Which comes to tell us that Yaakov lived his best years in Mitzrayim. So the question is, how is this possible?
Because he had all his sons together.
How is it possible that of all the years of his life, when he lived in the Holy Land, or most of his life, or many years lived in the Holy Land. And in Mitzrayim, which was the most impure place, Yaakov, that's where Yaakov had his best life.
Because all his kids were united. They had unity. They all lived together and prospered together. I mean, it's one of the reasons, I guess.
Right. So the simple reason is simply that he finally had peace. Because ever since he was young, he was running. He ran away from Esav. Eliphaz chased after him. He went to Lavan with nothing because Eliphaz took everything he had. Lavan tried to cheat him, and then he came back and he had to fight with Esav. And then the story of Dinah, and then he was afraid that other nations would try to come and kill him because of what happened in Shechem, and because Shimon and Levi killed everybody out. And then the story of Yosef.
Actually, Zeresh Shimshon says that everything that happened in Shechem, he thought that other nations will come and try to challenge him and all of that. But because other nations, neighboring nations, heard about it, they were actually very fearful of him. That's why they didn't want him to stop anywhere. Anywhere he would stop, he would tell his sons, go speak to the nobles, tell them we'll purchase everything with our money. So they don't think that we came here to bully them and take things from them. Because their reputation already preceded them. So
Wow.
all the nations around there already knew what his two children, they were technically children, 13 and 14 years old, or 13 and 12 years old.
Really?
Yeah, when they destroyed Shem, everybody there, they were 13 or 14 years old. So they were children. So they saw that his children could do this. What's to say about all his other kids who are older and much more stronger and much more powerful? So all these neighboring nations already knew how powerful Yaakov is.
Well, I mean, Shimon and Levi were the two oldest, but there was, I guess, Reuven.
But he had other kids, and that time passed. So at that time, they were only 13 or 14 years old. Or
right, that's what you're saying.
That's how it describes them.
Right. Whatever the case is, yeah. Okay, that's very interesting. I didn't know that. So anyway, and then he, after all that suffering, the thing with Yosef happened, and that's when he was actually the most sad, the most pained. And then he comes to Mitzrayim, and his family's there, his son's there, and he lives out well. But there's a deeper message here. If you look at the stages of Yaakov's life, and this is based on the Rebbe's Sicha, one of the Rebbe's talks. If you look at his life, there's three
stages.
Yeah, there's three types of moments. There's the moment where Yaakov was able to sit and learn. That was before he had to run away. He would just sit and learn Torah. That's when you're in your element, where everything is perfect and amazing, right? Then there was when he had to go to Lavan.
He had to go and learn too.
He had to run away to Lavan.
Right, but right before he went to Lavan, he had to go and learn. He had to go to Shem's what's his name, yeshiva to learn.
Right, so that was an extension.
How to deal with Lavan first.
Right,
he didn't learn how to deal with him.
Right, so that's an extension of the years of learning. Then he had to go to Lavan. That represents a time when your struggle. But we all have struggle, and we're able to. We deal with it. It's not debilitating. And then there's going down to Mitzrayim, which Mitzrayim is spiritually, a place where you see that Yaakov had to go and he had to pay homage to Paro, which is, that's the epitome of unholy impurity. That's when we're so weighed down by our surroundings, by the impurity or whatever, the weight of the world on our shoulders, that we're really it really gets to us. You can imagine like depression or feeling like despair and stuff like that. Now we see that Yaakov was able to deal with it because Yaakov was able to turn the galus, which that's what it was. Mitzrayim is galus, and the worst type of galus. He was able to turn that into his best years. How? Because he was a tzaddik. And he took the sparks of holiness, the sparks that were trapped in the impurity, and elevated them. And I think that that's kind of like a lesson for all of us, that when you know what your purpose is and you're connected to your purpose, nothing can touch you. If you're living your life in a way where you're just, the more you're involved in the material, so the material is going to have a hold on you. It's going to have a really big impact on you because you're serving it. But if the more connected you are to your source, our source is really who we are. We're neshamas. We're souls. We're souls in bodies, but we're souls. And the less we identify with our body, the more we identify with our soul, so then we do our job. We are in control even of the worst moments. We can take those moments and actually turn them into light and turn that into our greatest advantage and turn that into motivation and harness that and actually not that the environment will impact us, but we actually elevate the entire environment, and now we have just turned darkness into light. And that's what Yaakov did, and that's what we can do. And that comes when you know what your purpose is, when you know, I have a job here. I have a job to show light. That's our job, to light it to the nations. Our job is to turn the darkness into light. When you do that, no matter what situation you're in, and you hear stories of people, Holocaust stories, people who were in the worst situations, and they found an opportunity to do a mitzvah. They found they could do, stuff like matzah, or stuff like lighting the menorah, and they transformed the darkness into light. And I just recently saw Rabbi Mengel is he lives in our community. He's a Holocaust survivor. He recently went. We mentioned this in another week actually, where he went to the I think it was Auschwitz. I don't know if that was where he was, but he went to one of these places where by the trains and the camps, and he took a picture with his entire family. Took a picture with his entire family there.
Wow.
Yeah, incredible.
Well, I was going to add to what you were saying about Yaakov and his best years and all of that.
1 second, I just want to reply because we have a special guest here. Thank you, Yitzchak, for joining. And I just want to show. Yes, it's dark outside, but it's light in here. There's a song by Zisha. By the way, a fire song. You guys can go check it out. Thank you, Yitzchak, for that comment. Sorry, what were you saying, Ilya? Oh, shucks.
Wow.
But two of the
cameras are down?
Two of the cameras are out.
How?
Because we're on for a really long time.
Both of them just died?
Yeah, 1 second. Let me just... this is what we're going to do.
What are we doing now?
Well, we're going to have to figure out a way to get both of us in here. You know what? Actually, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get... Guys, you're going to see some... Oh, actually, this works, I think. I think we're both in it.
Are we?
Yeah, we are both in it. Now I just have to make sure that we're a little bit more in focus. Sorry about this, guys. This still is going strong, so that's going to be great. Okay. Yeah, here we go. Sorry about that. Okay.
I was going to add what you were saying about how happy, why he felt so happy in Mitzrayim, though it's considered spiritually a very low place. Because when he leaves Lavan's house, how many sheep did he live with? 600,000.
Yeah, you told me this.
Now, he was doing his own tikkunim. He was doing his own rectifications and purifications of souls. Right. So when he was already in Mitzrayim, he knew that the course of time, course of what was supposed to happen, is already happening. Because he knew, he was foretold that his grandfather, his father, Yitzchak, at his time it was a decree that we had to do 400 years of Galut.
Right.
He knew it started with us, but he was afraid of going to Mitzrayim because he thought that the place and its impurity would consume him. And the fact that he rediscovers that his son is alive, and not only is he alive, but he's a viceroy of Egypt, and at the same time he kept his purity, he was confident, and he knew that this is the time, and the course of time as it's supposed to go, it's happening in front of his eyes. So he was confident that everything that is happening from Hashem's hand, which is why he was so happy. He just started living a very happy life. And not only that, because his sadness had passed, his Ruach HaKodesh came back.
Right.
Remember we said that when a person is sad, he cannot have Ruach HaKodesh. So he lost it for a long time while his son wasn't with him.
For the entire time, yeah.
And the only time he got it back was when his granddaughter, Sarah, she was singing to him, and then he felt it. He's like, oh, wow. He felt 100%. He felt like he got it all back. That's when he came in, he gave her a blessing. He said, may you live forever. She's actually one of the 10 people that went into Shemaim without death.
Yeah, there's a story actually much later on with David HaMelech.
Right, correct.
He meets Sarah. Yeah.
No, what happened was there was one of the rebellions, not his son, not
It was a city he wanted to destroy.
Right. So he sends his nephew, the General Yoav.
Yeah.
He sends to siege the city. Yoav comes there and he says, I'm going to siege the whole city. We're going to destroy everyone. Sarah comes out.
So Yoav was his nephew?
Yoav was his nephew, yes.
Okay.
Sarah comes out and says, how dare you? Even at any time, whenever any great king, anybody ever did a siege, we were given a choice. People that want to come over to our side could come over and not destroy everyone. And so she basically negotiated for the nobles to give up the guy that just started the whole rebellion.
Yeah, I remember that. That was Sarah.
That was Sarah. And she saved the whole city because of that.
Yeah. Wow.
A wise woman. That was, I believe, that was like 400 years later.
Yes, they were so much more prepared, guys, about sneezing and dying. Right? Yaakov was the first person.
Right.
That
right.
He said, "Please, Hashem, make me sick before." I thought it was Avraham Avinu, but I guess here it seems that it was Yaakov who asked, and that's why he became sick.
Hold on. Yaakov said, I need enough time to say my goodbyes and give everybody a blessing.
Right.
So therefore, with him, it stopped where they sneeze and die.
Right.
So he was getting, his health was slowly deteriorating before he died.
Yeah. Exactly. So
not as slow as we think. It was very quick.
No, it was. I'm saying, but before it was no warning. It was a person would sneeze, boom.
Right,
That's why we say.
This is why we say
bless
God bless
you.
you.
There's actually a lot of interesting things he says here, but I think we're gonna have to wait that out until next year.
You're serious? That was it?
More? You down for more?
I mean, you only have one page to go.
Okay, guys, we're gonna go for a little longer. Let's see. Yeah, it's always good to learn more Torah.
Your son is sleeping. Who are you rushing to?
You're right. Okay, so let's talk about this. Yaakov is about to pass away, and we talk about how he got sick and how everybody else, like we just said, would sneeze. Now, there's a lot of opinions on exactly what you're supposed to say, but basically, you're supposed to say Chaim Tovim, right? Good life. And the person's supposed to answer Baruch Machai HaMesim, blessed is the one who brings back the dead, and Lishuascha Kivisi Hashem. And for your salvation, I hope Hashem. Now, these words, Lishuascha Kivisi Hashem, is brought down by many commentaries that say that yes, you're supposed to say Lishuascha Kivisi Hashem. Now, we don't do that today.
Why don't we?
So I'm not sure, but there's something that supports why you wouldn't, and that's the Chassam Sofer who says, I think it's brought down. Likutei Chaver ben Chaim. That was the Chassam Sofer's, the Sefer of the Chassam Sofer's student, and he says that the Chassam Sofer said you shouldn't write it, you shouldn't say it. Why shouldn't you say that? Because it has Hashem's name in it, and it's also a pasuk. And if you get used to saying it, maybe you'll be in the bathroom and sneeze, and you're going to say it. So in order so you shouldn't say holy words in the bathroom, you shouldn't say it at all. Because if you get used to it, you'll say it in the bathroom also.
Okay.
Interesting answer.
There might be some truth to that. Every time I sneeze, I say, excuse me. Even though I'm alone.
There you go. There you go. It's a force of habit. Now, in general, another medrash says that a person's supposed to thank Hashem that the sneeze changed from
Being dead to a sneeze.
to being alive, from death to living. And it's actually interesting. He says that when a person sneezes, it actually ups the white blood cells in the body.
You do skip a beat.
Well, that's the thing. So it actually shows that there is a reaction in the body scientifically that is also present when a person is unhealthy, right? The body has to produce more white blood cells when a person's sick or something like that. Something like that, but it was brought down that it's actually a scientific thing that when a person sneezes, there's a momentary
histamine
weakness.
Your histamines go up, which is why you sneeze. So
Something like that. Yeah,
that's the reaction. Okay, that makes sense. I never actually thought about it. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and Reb David Luria, the Radal, one of the great rabbis of the Jewish history, says that actually why is it that a person would die from sneezing? So it says because just like how was a person brought to life? It says that Hashem breathed life through his nostrils. So therefore, also the person, life leaves him also through his nostrils. Very interesting.
Yeah, but the way they describe when a person dies, they say that an angel comes and then he puts his blade, and on the end of the blade there's a drop.
I just read
that goes into their mouth, and then that's why they die with their eyes out and their jaw drops. I was like, wait a minute, that's so scary. So apparently at the end of his blade there's a droplet of poison that goes into the person's mouth.
Yeah.
And then he takes out the soul from the mouth.
Yeah. So this is obviously it's more of a spiritual thing.
But you understand what I'm talking about?
I just read this. Read this. Really? Yeah, I read it. That it says that basically the person who sees a Malach HaMavis, he has a sword with this, and he's so shocked and scared that he opens his mouth, and then he like throws this drop into his mouth, and that's how the neshama comes out of the nose.
I got these details from Rav Yehuda Pataya, the Minchad Yehuda.
Yeah, so, right. So, but it's brought down.
Okay.
Now, he actually brings down something very interesting. That Tzemach David, who was a student of the Ramah and the Maharal of Prague, says that there actually was a time when later on when people would sneeze and they died. It was a certain point when there was a lot of pollution in the air. It was like almost like a poison in the air.
It was probably Japan.
Maybe. I don't know what it was, but actually people died then by sneezing. Like this. It happened in the year 4350, the Hebrew year. 4,050 years. What?
Then it can't be Japan.
Whatever it is, he says that it was actually brought down this happened. Because the question is, why do we find that even though it's brought down in Chazal, by Chachamim, that a person is supposed to wish someone health, everyone in the world does it. Mm-hmm. So one of the reasons could be that because this was a phenomenon for everybody. Everybody used to die through sneezing, and now Yaakov was the first person, but this is now everybody died differently. So this became a way of life for everybody to say that. Or you could say, and this is what the Tzemach David brings, he says that actually people started saying it after this era when people started to die from sneezing again because of some sickness in the air. Which sounds so weird. By the way, it's like, what is it? Like,
if you think of in medical terms, it's almost as if what happened to the Indians. When the pilgrims came, they wanted to kill off the Indians. What do? They gave them blankets, but they already had chickenpox. And the Indians got killed off. Why? Because their immune system never felt any sort of a disease ever before. So their immune systems were completely shot. So them being exposed to something as simple as chickenpox.
What did the blankets? The blankets had what? The blankets had like a
chickenpox.
They put
So basically, they eradicated, I think it was like 75% or 66% of all Indians just by giving them blankets.
How do you put the chicken pox?
I don't know. Maybe somebody that had chicken pox, we use that blanket all the time, right? And then they gave it to somebody else, and he used the same one, and he got sick from it because he never had the virus in him. so he had no immune system to fight it. So it killed off like 70 or 80% of all Indians without shooting one bullet. You didn't hear about that?
That's brutal. I don't know.
That's what Americans did, bro. How do you think they got this land? They also introduced alcohol to all their shamans and leaders. They made them alcoholics and they killed them off.
Wow.
Amongst other things.
Right. So we're going to talk about, the last thing we're going to talk about here is the idea of being buried in Eretz Yisrael. Because Yaakov asked Yosef to bury him in Eretz Yisrael, right? So what's so special about going to Eretz Yisrael? So we're going to list a few things here.
At that time, it was called the land of Canaan.
Right. So it says that because it's a holy land, it's right under the Kisei HaKavod, the throne, Hashem's throne, and therefore it's not. It's much less of a. It's much less painful for the soul to go up, right? It doesn't have to go through. Oh, okay, there we go. We're back now. I don't know how that happened, but the screen turned black.
That's racist.
Wow. No, the camera didn't go dead. No, my brother said the camera went dead. Baruch Hashem, it did not go dead. But yeah, thank God it didn't happen like what happened last time. Remember, we had a black screen the entire time.
Oh man.
Yeah, but okay. So here
the audio is still working.
Audio is good.
Okay.
So the reasons, a good reason to be in Eretz Yisrael. What's so special about going to Eretz Yisrael? Number one, the neshama travels between worlds very easily. It actually says that the neshama every single Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh it comes back down to this world. And if it's in Chutz La'aretz, it has to go through. It's a very hard journey because it has to go through impurity, forces of impurity because it's not a holy land. And so it's very, very painful for the neshama to do that. But if it's buried in Eretz Yisrael, coming back down to the place of the burial is not painful because it's all holy.
Also, when we pray towards the east. Why? Because the center point of Eretz Yisrael, that where that dome used to be when the Mishkan was when the Beit HaMikdash was standing. So that's where the angel Matat comes and takes all of our prayers and then takes it to the next world.
Right. Yeah. That's where the prayers go, and then it goes up. Right. And then number two is, it says that a person who passes away in Eretz Yisrael, it's different than in Chutz La'aretz. Because outside of Eretz Yisrael, it's the Malach HaMavet, it's the angel of death. But in Eretz Yisrael, it's actually the Malach Gavriel.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if this applies across the board, but it seems that there's an idea that it's actually a different type of death. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Well,
because we know, what do we know? When a person moves from one city to the next, it says that a different malach will accompany him.
Right. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Wow. Whoa. That is so powerful.
Yeah. There you go. Look at you. You're always complimenting. You always bring something else. I love that about Ilya, by the way.
Wow. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. I was talking to a relative, and she was like, yeah, the guy knows a lot of stuff. Talking about you. He was like, yeah. You're saying that you're well read.
Thank you.
Ilya's well read. People.
I just turned 40, so I could start learning Kabbalah. So next session, Wait and see. Next video is gonna be juicy.
Oh man, that's great. Now we're gonna get some really heebie-jeebie stuff now.
Okay.
No, I was saying because you're learning Zohar now.
Right.
Okay, number 3. Someone who's buried in Eretz Yisrael, if he's buried on the same day, he doesn't go through any impurity because he's in a holy land, and the body didn't stay overnight. So if now outside of Israel is not as is unholy, but Eretz Yisrael is holy. So therefore, if you're buried on the same day that you passed away, not you, God forbid, right? You live many long years. If a person passes away and he's buried in the same day in Eretz Yisrael, there's less impurity.
Okay, then I got a question.
Yes.
Rav Kanievsky, God rest his soul, when he passed away, they didn't bury him the same day. They had to wait for, I think, 1 or 2 days. 1 day, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it's allowed.
Right.
Rabbis say, that if he's gonna have more of people showing up to show him respect,
then
it's allowed to do so.
Right.
My question is, since he's in Eretz Israel, does that mean all these things that are around us, all these shidim, all these different things, would not bother his body and his soul while he's waiting to be buried?
I don't have the answer for you, but when it comes to people as great as him, in general, I think things are different. Like it says, for example, that normally people get taken away by the Malach HaMavis, but Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, even though they passed away,
but that was done
right. Yeah. So I'm just saying, there's a whole different. When it comes to tzaddikim, there's a whole nother thing, but I don't know the answer to that. If you wait, what's the story? It seems that there's an extra gain in purity when a person passes away in Eretz Yisrael and he's buried there. 4. Dalet. Adam shemista. Okay, a person who passes. Oh, this is interesting. If someone passes away on Friday and he's buried on Friday, so actually he's saved from chibut hakever. He's saved from the punishment of chibut hakever is it's not gehinom. It's the idea of the body needs some cleansing.
Right.
There's pleasure that a person had in this world, whatever it is. The body needs some kind of cleansing in order to take away the vestige and some kind of
the decomposition process.
Yeah, but that's basically because of
that's rectifying.
Yeah, it's a rectification.
Right. Okay.
Now, very very holy people don't need that.
Right, because their bodies don't really smell and decompose
But also because they again, it's somewhat of a cleansing because of things that were done in this world. Someone who's on a very high level wouldn't need that. Now, a person who passes away on Erev Shabbos, I think it's after the first 4 hours, but Erev Shabbos, and he's buried on Erev Shabbos, so then the holiness of Eretz Yisrael, combined with the holiness of Shabbos, saves him from the punishment of Chibut HaKever.
Wow.
And so, if a person doesn't live in Eretz Yisrael, he doesn't have that opportunity. So again, not everybody gets to have this zichus, this merit, but still, now it says something very interesting, that so of the things that save a person from Chibut HaKever, there's 4 things that you can do. Give tzedakah. Number 2, accept rebuke when somebody, not to answer back, but when somebody tells you something that you have to improve, to accept criticism, Number 3.
We're going to pretend we didn't hear number 2.
It's actually a very good quality to be able to accept when somebody to accept. You don't have to be a doormat, but to accept criticism in the way where okay, I have feedback, now I can improve myself. That's actually, the biggest way of growth. How do you grow muscle? First the muscle tears and then it grows. So, you have to be able to accept about yourself that there are things that need to grow.
So you have to be
a bit of
open to
tearing down.
Constructive criticism.
100%. But sometimes the criticism comes in not such a constructive form, right, and you have to be able to pick out the constructive juice out of the yelling or the belittling,
Right.
which is not an easy thing. And 3, to love, the loving to do gemilas chasadim and having guests. And it's interesting. It doesn't just say doing deeds of kindness, right? Acts of kindness and having guests, but loving to do that. So it has to be done with love. And number 4 is davening with a lot of kavanah, without having any foreign thoughts. So real deliberate praying, with a lot of concentration. Those 4 things can help save a person, help a person not have to go through chibut hakever. And that's talking about number 4. Number 5, the reason is because actually the land of Eretz Yisrael there's less of a decomposition. It says in the land of Eretz Yisrael than in Chutz La'aretz, which I don't fully understand, but that's what it says. That actually the land is more.
I thought it was the total opposite. I thought because the land of Israel, their soil is so reddish, like the reddish color, that it's easier. Technically, the person's body decomposes quicker. I don't know why I always thought that.
I'm not sure. It says masliya, that there's worms, so maybe there aren't worms. I don't know.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. And then Vav 6, the 6th reason is because when Mashiach will come, so and will be Tchias HaMesim, the revival of the dead. Anyone who's an out of Eretz Yisrael is going to have to come through tunnels, and it's very painful for the body to have to do that. And even when the bodies will be reconstructed, the bodies will be reconstructed in Chutz La'aretz, but the neshama is only going to be brought into the body once they go to Eretz Yisrael.
This is one of the reasons why a lot of big tzaddikim insisted on being buried where they lived and not taken to Eretz Yisrael, because when Mashiach comes, these tzaddikim will be the leaders of those people, of those nations and those people at that land.
Right, they'll lead the. Yeah. But here's something very interesting. It says that somebody. Oh, and it also says that the people in Eretz Yisrael will actually be revived. They'll have Tchias HaMesim before other people. Else. Here's something very interesting. If somebody has, it says a karev. Karev can mean a relative, also means someone you're close to. I'm not sure what it means, but it says if you have someone, let's just say a relative, who is in Eretz Yisrael, and you support him, and you give him what he needs, and you help him, and he's living in Israel because of you, right? If let's say he doesn't have what to survive, and you help him survive, so he's living there because of you. So you're also going to have that merit, and you're also going to have Tchias HaMesim, even though you're a Chutz La'aretz before the other people of Chutz La'aretz. So supporting people in Eretz Yisrael is very, very important.
Repeat that again.
It says that.
No. Repeat it. Mechiach HaMitim.
Tchias HaMesim.
Okay.
Tchias HaMesim.
Okay.
How do you say it? We still have to do that real, We're teasing the people here with
I say Hamitim, but
Tchiat Hamitim.
Okay.
And the Yemenites say
okay.
Tchiat Hametim.
Right, they do. Hametim. Right.
Okay. Now here's something very interesting. Reb Shimon Bar Yochai says in the Zohar. Oh, you can learn Zohar. That the first.
I didn't start yet. I just turned 40 yesterday.
Yeah. Mazel tov, guys. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
You should have best year of your life yet, and a year of bracha, v'atzlacha, blessing, and success, and only the best, spiritually and physically.
Amen. Thank you.
As they say, that a Jew's physicality is really spirituality, because we use the physical for godliness. Right. Now, Reb Shimon Bar Yochai says that actually the first place where Tchias HaMesim is going to happen is in Tzfas. Very, very interesting. In Tzfas, Mashiach is going to actually be revealed first in Tzfas, and then they're going to go to Yerushalayim, and there they're going to learn Torah. The first time I ever read something like this, very, very interesting.
Well, where did it actually take place? The very first time it actually happened?
Tchias HaMesim? What do you mean?
So there was a tribe, I believe it was
the valley, the valley of the bones.
That's right. They left Egypt before their time, and they perished in the middle of a desert. I don't recall who it was. I think it was Ezekiel. Or Ezekiel. He goes back and he basically revives all of them.
Yeah, and then they come to Eretz Yisrael.
Correct, right. So you heard about that one, right?
It's one of the Haftarahs. It's like a...
Oh, yeah.
It's one
So
of
that was the first time it actually happens, that it actually talks about in detail.
En masse, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, true.
In detail, it talks about how all their veins
flesh
came back.
Yeah, exactly.
The flesh came crawling back.
Yeah, it's weird.
It was
It's scary.
Whoa. If you imagine it, it's like...
Talks about the bones literally growing.
And it all came from where? For that one tiny bone that we have in a cockroach bone.
Talks about talks about this bone. Okay, let's look at the comments. Is that for death and not burial? I'm not sure what you're saying, Mandy, but we gotta sign off. So a good Shabbos to everybody.
Good Shabbos, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Promise next week will be juicier. I'm gonna learn some new stuff.
Okay.
Don't forget to smash that like button.
Smash the like button.
And we are expecting you next week.
Yes. Subscribe, smash the like button. Let the algorithm push us out so more people can see this.
That's right.
And please, there is a link for Patreon. That's how you can contribute even $1 a month.
Right.
And it could really help us.
Yosef is trying to live in Eretz Israel, so help him do everything you can, to help him make that dream come true.
Yeah.
And so we will see you next week. Thank you very much, and good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos, guys.
Take us out.